Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Hope we're having a wonderful start to the week out there, and it's going to be a pretty active week here for a lot of folks as this storm system we've been talking about for the past couple of days now kind of really continues to crank up a little bit and slowly work eastbound throughout much of the country, really starting now and working all the way through kind of this work week. And then after that, we'll have to watch for another potential storm system, that next one maybe even stronger than this one, about a week to 10 days out from now. So again, very active pattern ahead for a lot of folks. And I will ask, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. Like the video if you like it, and of course comment, let me know where you're watching from and what you're seeing in your neck of the woods. I think with all that said, don't really have too much else in the intro today, so we can kind of go ahead and just jump right into it and start talking about some weather here. Now, taking a look at the country here on satellite, again, much like the past couple of days, we're pretty quiet here east of the Rockies. You'll notice a lot of clear skies, like a little bit of maybe some very light rain trying to work on through portions of the mid-Atlantic and east, but really a lot of that's not even hitting the ground. That's kind of evaporating before it gets down here to the surface. The more active weather, though, and kind of what we really need to be talking about is kind of this big feature you're seeing out west, specifically into the Pacific Northwest. This is a big air mass of cold air and a trough, as we call it in meteorology, which is just kind of an extension of that cold air downward. And what that is going to do is allow for the formation of low pressure here and likely a pretty strong storm system somewhere here over the Great Plains, and that will eventually track eastbound throughout the next couple of days, bringing with it snow, severe weather, gusty winds, and a big change in temperatures with that associated cold front behind it. So again, very active stuff here within the next couple of days. Now, taking a look at our watches, warnings, advisories, and radar imagery, obviously things have really filled in over the past couple of days. Very quickly going to touch on some of this precipitation trying to work on into the east. And again, as I mentioned, most of this isn't really hitting the ground, but could be seeing some rain along the I-95 corridor at the time I'm recording this, which is about 10 a.m. So again, kind of watching out for that area. Could see a little bit of rain, but most of this down into the Carolinas and Virginia, again, really just not hitting the ground. We've got pretty dry air at the surface, luckily, which is kind of helping to prevent that turning into, I guess, more of a precipitation threat. Now, same story up here near Montreal and kind of getting into New York State and Vermont. Some of this could be hitting the ground, especially up here kind of into the central parts of Ontario and down into New Brunswick. Could definitely be seeing some rain or snow showers out of that, but overall impact's pretty light with that little bit of precipitation trying to work on in. Now, our impacts are not quite so light and are a bit more dramatic are out west, and I'll start here into the plains. All of these red boxes that you see are kind of maybe even pink, if you will. These are red flag warnings, so that is indicating the threat for fire hazards today. So again, if you're in this area, do not burn anything. Very windy, very dry air kind of funneling into this part of the country, so very easy to kind of spark a fire and that get out of control. From Denver through all of Nebraska, really down into much of West Texas and Oklahoma, and to Iowa, Kansas City area, and back towards St. Louis and into Illinois. So again, just be mindful of that throughout today. Now, kind of back out further into the West Coast, and specifically into the higher terrains, we do have a bit of a snow threat into the Rockies today. So in these pink boxes, not quite as bright pink as the last boxes I mentioned, but the ones out kind of into the Rockies, these are winter storm warnings with winter weather advisories in the purple boxes, and then high wind watches and warnings in kind of that beige and mustard color. So again, all of this is due to this storm system and this trough that is continuing to, again, slowly work on into the region and bringing in those impacts with it that we are watching. Now, very quickly, I'm going to discuss today's weather in the East Coast. This won't take long because, again, things are relatively quiet. But then after that, we're going to discuss this storm system and kind of time it out from West Coast to East Coast. Now, I will mention today we do have a marginal risk of severe weather, and I say today, but this is really more of a this evening and overnight tonight threat. But either way, we could see some storms that produce some hail here from northern Indiana into northwestern Ohio and then into the southern half of Michigan overnight tonight, kind of after the sun has gone down. And we'll take a look at that here in just a moment with our next map. But just know that threat is on the table. And again, not really during the daylight hours today, but more so during the evening and overnight hours before we get into kind of early Tuesday morning. All right, let's take a look at kind of future radar here. Let me back this up a little bit as well. This is starting at about noon today. Again, things are relatively quiet here. Again, could be seeing some snow showers up here kind of near Maine and then into portions of New Brunswick and Ontario, and maybe even a couple sprinkles try to get out here into North Carolina and Virginia. But again, not really anything impactful, and that tries to move on through here pretty quickly. Now, as we get later on today, we could see a little bit more in the way of precipitation here through Virginia. Maybe some of those very light kind of showers right now turn into a bit more of a heavy precipitation threat, or at least a light to moderate threat. And again, that's not out of the question. So don't be caught off guard if you do see some rain showers there through Virginia, or maybe even the northern half of North Carolina, kind of into the D.C. area as well, kind of in that part of the mid-Atlantic. But either way, it clears out pretty quickly, and by the time we get to about 11 o'clock tonight, most of that rain is gone. Now, at the same time, again, you'll notice here's that low pressure I was talking about now forming at the surface, and with that, we could see, again, some storms kind of develop here with a bit of a short wave here overnight tonight from Indiana through Ohio and Michigan, again, kind of outlined by that marginal risk of severe weather I mentioned. And here we go. This is about 2 o'clock in the morning, so again, very late overnight tonight and early tomorrow morning. But any of these storms you see popping up here into Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan do have the chance to produce some large hail and maybe even a couple of gusty winds. But really, the hail will be the bigger threat, and I don't think it'll be off the charts big. But again, could hit severe criteria, and that's kind of why we have to watch that. So that's what today and overnight tonight looks like through much of the East Coast. And one thing I will also mention is temperatures today are going to be very nice. In fact, even hot for some folks. And I know it's only February, but some very impressive kind of crazy temperatures here showing up on our maps today. So again, high temperatures. The big winner today is going to be out into Texas, from Dallas-Fort Worth back towards kind of San Antonio and right there into the heart of Texas through the Red River Valley. We could be pushing 95. Isolated spots could get up into the upper 90s today, not out of the question. And again, it's kind of just a perfect storm of atmospheric conditions to allow for that much radiational heating today. And again, we'll be watching that, and it'll be very interesting to see how many high temperatures or high temperature records get broken today. But again, Texas is not the only place. Getting well out here into kind of portions of the central Great Plains, pretty far north, even into the Ohio River Valley and down even into the southeast. Many of us pushing well into the 70s today. In fact, we could go up into the 60s as far north as Minnesota, which again, for late February, is definitely not a common thing to see. So a very impressive heat wave, if you will, throughout this afternoon. And even going into overnight tonight, our low temperatures are going to be very well above average. We might not get down below 65 for a lot of folks here into Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana. But what I do want to mention here on this map is, you notice we've got a pretty sharp boundary setting up here. So we could get up near 60, 65 in Minneapolis today, but by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, look at this cold front slowly working on in, and that very cold air out of Canada funneling in behind it. So I don't want you to think winter is over after today, because again, this cold front, it's going to sweep on through quickly, and it's going to pack quite a punch here in the storm department as well as the temperature department. Some crazy swings on the way here for many folks today, and getting into tomorrow as well. And again, tomorrow afternoon for our Tuesday, this shows up even better. Again, another very warm day here into the Mid-South, into the central Great Plains here, specifically the southern Great Plains, into the Ohio River Valley. And again, this is going to fuel some severe weather as well tomorrow, but notice, again, here's that line of that cold air slowly but surely, sliding southward and working on into much of the country. All right, now let's talk about the storm system a little bit more in depth and talk about kind of the timing a little bit more and the overall meteorological kind of amplifications of it, if you will. And here we go. This is this afternoon. Obviously, you'll notice we do have this ridge still kind of in the east. That is what is allowing that transport of warm Gulf air kind of northward and really making it feel a lot more like spring, even summer, again, for some folks. But again, that's going to change, all due to this big kink in the atmosphere here into the jet stream. We've got this big time trough with those cold temperatures indicated by those cooler colors on your map here. And watch what happens over the next couple of days. That trough going into this afternoon, overnight tonight, and eventually into our Tuesday afternoon continues to slide southward as well as eastbound, and now that pocket of cold air moving with it, as well as that kind of diverging side here of our wind field, again, going to allow for some showers, storms, and low pressure to form here. Kind of in that circled area on your map. And same general idea here going into Wednesday. That same trough slowly works eastbound, bringing with it cooler temperatures with that cold front, some storms as well, and that low pressure continuing to amplify before eventually getting later on into this week. After that cold front kind of swings on through, we're right back to above average temperatures with this ridge in the atmosphere once again working back in. So again, a bit of a roller coaster here for a lot of folks over the next couple of days. All right, now taking a look at kind of where we're at right now with the storm system and then timing this out. We'll start out west where the weather, is already kind of getting a bit active here. And this is about the time that the sun is rising out west. So again, about the time I'm recording this. And you'll notice we've got some snow flying out here from Oregon to Idaho, back into the mountains of Montana. Again, a bit of a wintry scene here for much of today. And that same general idea is going to continue as we get into kind of the afternoon hours out west here. Again, widespread snow showers from Washington State to Oregon, back down to the mountains of Nevada, Idaho, Yellowstone National Park, much of Montana seeing some snow showers this afternoon, while we're dealing with just some good old-fashioned rain showers here into kind of Southern California, maybe even into Arizona and into the coastlines of Oregon and Washington State. So again, an active day today, and that continues into the overnight hours tonight. You'll notice that snow continuing to work on through. Widespread snow showers from Colorado through Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, even some snow and rain showers getting down into the four corners of Arizona and New Mexico overnight tonight. And by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning out west, again, seeing some of those snow showers, but things slowly calming down. Now, again, as I mentioned, it's still likely snowing into the mountains of Colorado. Same story for Utah, Wyoming, and some of these higher peaks into the northern Rockies. But overall speaking, Tuesday will be a much quieter day here out west, and likely even continuing that trend of becoming more quiet overnight Tuesday. And by the time we're waking up Wednesday morning, we do have to watch for another storm system potentially out into the Pacific Northwest. But overall, for much of the Rockies, much more quiet by the time we hit Wednesday compared to what we're going to see today and tomorrow. All right, taking a look at some of these snowfall totals, and again, a lot of it on the way. This is straight from the National Weather Service. Obviously, the higher terrains here of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and back through Yellowstone National Park. A pretty good amount of snow on the way here, more than a foot for those highest peaks, but a lot of folks going to see snow nonetheless out of this. And same story for the desert Southwest here. Now, less snowfall totals down here, but still impressive enough, especially for, again, the mountains of Colorado here and back into Utah, where some of these higher peaks and those ski resorts really going to cash in on the snow. Same story here for Wyoming and then down into the Sierra Nevadas as well. We're definitely going to see some snow out of this storm system. Just again, most of the snow falling kind of into the northern Rockies, specifically into the mountains of Washington and into Oregon. All right, now, by the time we get into tomorrow, we are still going to be seeing some snow, but the severe weather threat becomes a bigger risk. And again, we are still working with this threat of severe weather from much of southern Michigan into Illinois, Indiana, and back down into Ohio, St. Louis. Again, a lot of folks here are likely to see some strong storms tomorrow, including the threat of a couple isolated tornadoes. And this threat level could get bumped up a little bit here, I think, going into the next update today, and especially by tomorrow morning, where we could have some storms capable of producing tornadoes kind of in that circled area on your map. So if you live in this part of the country, again, into Indiana, Illinois, southern Michigan, and kind of down into the St. Louis area, and even into northwestern Ohio here, got to have a way to get those watches and warnings tomorrow, and even going into the evening hours of tomorrow as well, as the atmosphere will be quite primed here with the potential for definitely strong straight line winds, brief isolated hail, and even a couple of tornadoes that could stay tracked for a little bit of time here. So they might not be those quick tornadoes that just hit the ground and then leave. These could track for more than 10 miles. We'll definitely have to watch that threat. All right, taking a look at our latest NAM model. I'm going to use this one just because it goes far enough out that it gets us near the end of the storm system, but there are going to be some differences between this model and some of our others, but overall doing an all right job at kind of showing what we are expecting. Now again, we'll pick this up kind of into tomorrow morning where we left off earlier, and you'll notice, again, a lot of snow falling here on the cold side of the storm system. Here's the low pressure kind of here, and I'll draw out our fronts for you here. We're going to have a cold front kind of like this, and then a warm front on the kind of front side of the storm system like this. So again, bringing up a lot of that warm air, helping to lead to that instability in the atmosphere. But on the other side, we've got enough cold air funneling in that we're changing over to some snow back into North Dakota, South Dakota, and into northern Minnesota. Now, I will mention I think this might be overdoing the snowfall a little bit through the Dakotas, but I definitely think by the time we get into Tuesday afternoon here, Definitely some pretty good snow falling into northern Minnesota as the storm system continues to pull in enough cold air and still causing enough lift in the atmosphere that we're going to get a good kind of snowstorm in this part of the country. And we haven't seen all that much snow, I feel like, this year in Minnesota. If you're watching from that state, definitely let me know. But I feel like I haven't been talking about snowfall up there all that much this year. But this storm definitely will help to aid into some of those snowfall totals. And it is often that we see more snow kind of in the northern Great Plains in the spring months, or at least the late winter months, than maybe the early winter months, and this is a great example of that. Now, at the same time here during our Tuesday afternoon, snow is not the only threat. Obviously, we will have some showers and even some storms rolling on through kind of here into southern Quebec and down even into portions of Pennsylvania, New York, and kind of there into the Niagara Falls area. Could definitely see some showers and storms roll on through. Maybe even some showers down into the mid-Atlantic through Virginia and the Carolinas, although less of a thunder threat down there and maybe just some light showers kind of trying to roll on through. But it's really going into this time frame, and this is about the time the sun is setting here, and this is also when we're expecting these storms to finally fire up and that severe weather threat kind of amplify a little bit here through sections of Illinois, Indiana, and I'll draw this with a bit more of a menacing color, if you will, kind of in the red here, but again, kind of into this circled box on your map. Gotta watch these storms as they fire up about the time the sun is setting here into our overnight Tuesday and into Wednesday. And again, all hazards on the table. Strong straight line winds, large hail, and even a couple isolated tornadoes. Definitely not out of the question here as these storms roll on through. Now, at the same time, as those storms are firing up, again, still seeing some snowfall in here into northern Wisconsin and northern Minnesota, and I promise I'll show you snowfall totals here after we're done with this map, but let's kind of turn our eyes to the severe weather threat again here, and this is about 9 or 8 o'clock here local time, and again, the sun is down at this point, and this is still whenever these storms are cranking on through, and we've got to, again, watch the threat for some severe weather here with these storms as they continue to roll on through the evening hours. Now, another thing I will mention, again, this is kind of the cold front here. This is the warm front. Anywhere kind of in between the two and in front of the low pressure is likely going to see some scattered rainfall before that cold front itself moves on through. So I think overnight Tuesday is going to be not a washout, but very scattered in the rainfall department here through the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and even down into the Ohio River Valley. So again, expect some rain here, but the severe weather threat, is going to be more isolated to kind of the low pressure system itself as it rolls on through. And the good news is, I think once we kind of pass midnight here, some of those ingredients for severe weather are going to fall off a little bit, and we're now just going to be dealing with some widespread thunderstorms that, again, are less likely to maybe be producing severe weather and more likely to just be producing kind of some widespread rainfall. Again, once we get into overnight Tuesday, kind of past the midnight hour. Now, at the same time, again, still seeing some snowfall here into the UP of Michigan, maybe even a skinny band of snow trying to set up here into kind of along the cold front itself. But again, really, the NAM is kind of known for overdoing precipitation amounts a little bit, but do feel confident in some snow up here on the northern periphery of this storm system. Now, as this storm continues to work on through, and again, that cold front sets up shop pretty good here. By the time we're waking up Wednesday morning, again, still quite a rainy morning through the Ohio River Valley into the northeast, but here comes that cold front very strong on the backside, that cold air funneling in very quickly, and whatever rain we're seeing here along the cold front itself may try to quickly change to a quick burst of snow here on the backside, but again, I wouldn't get your hopes up too high for you winter weather fans. But what will be a little bit more interesting to see, I think, is just kind of this very impressive little skinny line of storms here throughout the day Wednesday. Now, right now, Storm Prediction Center does not have a threat of severe weather, and I think that makes a pretty good amount of sense here. Just that low pressure is going to pull so far northward here that kind of the overall lift and wind shear in the atmosphere is going to die off pretty quickly here. But nonetheless, Wednesday afternoon, again, still widespread rainfall in the northeast, and as this cold front is moving through itself, you're going to get a quick burst of some rainfall with likely some gusty winds here and maybe even a little bit of lightning Wednesday afternoon starting through Kentucky, Tennessee, into West Virginia, and then by the time we're kind of the sun is setting Wednesday evening, moving through the Appalachia chain and then up into the northeast. Now, I do think we will see a change over to snow from rain into portions of the Northeast and the Appalachia chain here. Specifically, kind of West Virginia northbound, I think the higher terrains of West Virginia could get a quick burst of snow on the backside. Also, up here into New York State, I think on the backside of this, specifically some of those higher terrains, could definitely see that quick change to snow here. This is as far out as this model goes into Wednesday evening, but nonetheless, notice a lot of rain here in front of the storm system. Areas changing over to snow on the backside into the higher terrains of New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, and again, we'll definitely watch that. Now, kind of moving this out to the end of this storm system's lifetime here on the latest GFS model. Again, this gets us kind of into the midnight hour between Wednesday and Thursday. And again, here's that cold front finally working on through. That cold air now quickly funneling in. And on the backside, cannot rule out some isolated lake effect snow showers. And again, that quick change over to snow on the backside of that line of precipitation itself before finally all of this kind of works on out of here, and by the time we're getting into later, really the time the sun is rising Thursday morning and into Thursday afternoon, that cold air settling in and nicer conditions overtaking, but we will have to watch maybe a little bit of a low pressure system tries to develop back into the southern Great Plains and could try to ride through the southeast, maybe bringing a bit of a dreary kind of wet weekend, but again, the severe weather threat and kind of the warm temperatures will subside a good bit. All right, snowfall totals. Again, I think northern Minnesota here could get a pretty good burst of snow out of this, specifically along the Canadian border here. Could see maybe upwards of half a foot of snow not out of the question, but overall speaking, I'd say 1 to 3 inches with isolated spots getting 3 to 5 inches here from southern and southeastern North Dakota here into the northern side of Michigan. Could again definitely see some snow out of this. Now, as for the Midwest, again, we could get a quick change over to snow on the backside here through Iowa into northern northern Missouri and northern Wisconsin and, southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois. Sorry, really messing up my states today. Again, though, really maybe a dusting to half an inch out of that, but more of the kind of prolonged periods of snow is going to stretch from Minneapolis here into northern Wisconsin and then into the UP of Michigan, where 1 to 3 inches of snow not out of the question here by the time all is said and done, and we'll definitely be watching that. Now, the Northeast, I also mentioned, could likely see some snowfall out of this, specifically here into the higher terrains of New York State. Again, I think 1 to 3 inches of snow here, kind of into the Finger Lakes area. Definitely, again, could see some of that snow here. And then also into the higher terrains of Vermont, Massachusetts, and even into New Hampshire and Maine, where 1 to 3 inches of snow could fall on the backside. Maybe even a quick burst of a couple inches of snow here, into kind of the Erie, PA area, and then up into Buffalo. Now, also, you'll notice total's not very high here, but I think, again, a quick burst of snow that could lead to an inch, maybe 1 to 2 inches on the highest peaks there in West Virginia as well, is not out of the question before all is said and done. All right, rainfall, again, definitely going to be a threat as well, and we could see a quick 2 inches of rain or so, specifically into the Ohio River Valley from kind of Louisville up through Charleston, West Virginia, into the Pittsburgh area. Definitely seeing most of the rain out of this, but overall, 1 to 3 inches of rain widespread here from the Ohio River Valley up into the Northeast. And again, kind of even down into the Tennessee River Valley. But areas south of there, kind of into the Carolinas, Nashville southbound, not a lot of rain out of this storm system. In fact, I think most of the rain we see this week actually comes after it, again, with that next storm that could try, to work on into kind of the early half of this weekend and towards the end of this work week. All right. Now, temperatures, again, obviously a big roller coaster here with this, and starting on tomorrow afternoon, again, very above average temperatures for a lot of us, but here comes that cold front, and it is on the way, and like I said, it's going to pack a punch here with a very quick changeover in temperatures. Now, moving this ahead into Wednesday afternoon, you'll notice that cold front starts moving quickly, and a lot of us are now back to below average temperatures. In fact, areas here into Kansas and Missouri could be 30 to 40 degrees above average Tuesday afternoon, and then Wednesday afternoon about 10 to 15 degrees below average. So, a near 40 to 50 degree temperature swing is going to be more than enough to kind of catch you off guard here, and a lot of folks, again, really going to feel it here. Especially after it being so warm, you're going to get used to that, and then that cold air returns, and unfortunately, you're reminded that it's not quite spring yet. Now, Wednesday afternoon, again, still going to be warm into the Northeast and down into the Mid-Atlantic as well, as that cold front still hasn't quite worked on in, but by the time we hit Thursday afternoon, that cold front's going to swing on through, and high temperatures for our Thursday are again back to below average for the East Coast and into the South, but now once again getting above average here into the Northern Great Plains. So just crazy temperature swings here for a lot of folks, and by the time we get into Friday afternoon, again, those warm temperatures once again taken back over, back to above average temperatures for most folks, again, outside of the Southeast, where a bit of a storm system and disturbance could try to keep things cool, chilly, and wet going into our Friday afternoon. But by the time we hit Saturday afternoon, again, most of us back to well above average temperatures, and that continues into the weekend before, again, eventually another storm system tries to work on it, and that could cool us down once again at some point going into next week. All right, taking a look at future radar potential here, and this is overnight Wednesday into Thursday. Again, here's that storm system we've been talking about lifting all the way up into Canada at this point, but that cold front sagging all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, as I mentioned, going into this weekend, there are some signs a bit of a storm system tries to work on into the southeast. And here we go. This is Friday morning. Definitely some scattered rain showers here. Excuse me, from Texas all the way even over to the Carolinas potentially, and that could lead to a wet, kind of cool, cloudy, dreary Friday afternoon, overnight Friday, and maybe even into our early Saturday before I think finally going into Sunday, things try to clear out a little bit before, again, another storm system, this one also of big magnitude here into the early half of next week. So again, about 7 to 10 days from now. This one, once again, having the potential to produce severe weather, some snowfall, and some gusty winds as well. So we're not done here. It looks like a very active stretch of weather from now really through the end of February and likely even into at least the first week of March here as these kind of springtime storm systems try to roll on through. Alrighty, well, we got through a lot of information in this video. I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me and kind of soaking it all up, and hopefully you do something with it. But again, as I mentioned earlier, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. Like the video if you found it useful, and of course comment, let me know where you're watching from. With that said though, I hope you have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll see you all tomorrow.